Okay, we are live, and as always, grateful for quick audio and visual check. Let me know we're coming through loud and clear, please. And as always, a lot to talk about this morning. And just wait a few more minutes for those to come on to the line and have some fellowship with us. And it's 11 a.m. UK time. And God bless you. Those that can hear us loud and clear. Got a slight delay on my other phone here, but I think you can hear me loud and clear. So God bless you. Okay, I can see the comments now. God bless you. Okay, bless you all, and hopefully the Wi-Fi will be good quality for today, and the visual as well. And always appreciate those who join us live every Wednesday. And okay, I think we're good to go. So we're going to open up with.
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. We've had a little bit of a heat wave here, you could say. Yes. I don't know what it's been like in your countries, but most of Europe is experiencing some very, very unpleasant heat waves. It's going to be a lot hotter in hell, of course. Many people there.
Yeah.
And but in England here, we're really not used to it. We don't get too much of it, I suppose, 2 or 3 days. But apparently yesterday in Barcelona, you've been there, of course. You preached there.
Well, I have, so you.
Yeah, you preached there. It was the hottest day in 100 years.
Wow.
Wow. And I remember you preached there outside Gaudi's so-called cathedral. You had a bit of opposition, didn't you, from somebody? Was it the police, was it?
Yes. Wow.
Tell us a bit about it, yeah.
2015.
Yes. He gets around, you see.
Yeah, not just sitting in cars. Yeah, the local police buzzed us a few times.
Yeah.
And that was good outreach, actually. A lot of people going into the cathedral. So please don't go in. Spoke to some
demonic.
Yeah, spoke to some American people. A lot of evangelicals are, I don't know what the word is really, I guess slightly beguiled with the Catholic Church's cathedrals. The pomp, the pull that such a system is able to use and entice people with. But yeah, that was good outreach many, many years ago.
Yeah, it was, certainly was. But hottest day in 100 years. Wow. It's a taste of things that are going to come when the second coming comes, you know.
Yeah.
Beast demons coming out of the earth, terrific heat wave, no water, people dying for water. In fact, a bottle of water will be worth more than a basket of gold or something like that to quench your thirst. And their thirst cannot be quenched.
No, partly.
Okay, well, we should start this morning. I want to start this morning with Jimmy Swaggart. We've been talking about him the last 2-3 weeks. He's been very ill. Jimmy Swaggart died in the night, aged 90 years old. And there'll be a lot of people going to his funeral, I would think. Had a quick look at some of the American papers. He had a quote from Trump, who called him an incredible man of faith. That's what Donald Trump said. And he sent him a nice letter on his 90th birthday, I remember, as well. He said, I watched a lot of your videos. I learned a little bit about projecting yourself. I think it's the thing about Swaggart and all these American people, these evangelists, when they're on social, you get a good show.
Oh, yeah.
They're moving around. They have a warm-up act. They have a band there. He's singing and playing and so forth. And he was also quoted as saying that the Catholic Church, as far as he was, quote, the whore of the apocalypse.
Say it again.
The whore of the apocalypse, the Catholic Church.
Definitely.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And he said the misfortune has happened to the Jewish people through his quote, because of their rejection of Christ.
Yeah.
Well, it's not only the Jews who rejected Christ, all sorts of other religions reject Christ, don't they, as well? His superiority and so forth.
Look at yesterday's conversation, that
Muslim guy, he was quite clear about it. And he brought Mary into the topic. Maybe talk about that later.
Yeah, okay.
So Jimmy Swaggart's gone now. I think a poll that I saw some years ago saying after Billy Graham, he was the most well-known of the evangelicals on television. Jimmy Swaggart.
He would have been, along with...
I think he probably was. Who else would you say is up there?
Who was Cardinal Spellman's sidekick?
Oh, Fulton Sheen. Well, I'm not talking more about the evangelicals, you know, the Charles Stanleys and the
It was Graham, then it was Swaggart.
It was Graham, then it was Swaggart. And but I think those two people remember the money that they raised through their ministries. Only in America this could happen.
One of my beefs with Swaggart was he attacked once saved, always saved. He would
Yes.
call it the damnable heresy. And he got caught with that prostitute, not once, but 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
after the Bill Clinton, I know I've sinned, statements, he was able to backpedal. But this is the danger that you get into when you throw out once saved, always saved and hold to conditional security. These people are very good at condemning saints that are weak in the flesh. Barry Smith was another one. He had a real issue with once saved, always saved. And of course, one day one of his daughters took her own life.
Yeah.
And overnight, Barry's no longer attacking once saved, always saved. This, of course, is the weakness that we all have as Christians. Some of our theology isn't always straight. But for someone like Swaggart to condemn the beauty of once saved, always saved, I think that probably haunted him for a long time. Was he saved? I'm not sure. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Who can say who's saved or not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I caught Donnie talking this morning that Dad's up in heaven, and he's meeting many of the hundreds of people that he got saved on this earth. They're all welcoming him up in heaven now. Come on in, Jimmy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's a nice thought. I don't know. But the thing about him was when he got caught with that prostitute, I think he was expelled from the Assemblies of God. He was tied in with the Assembly, or they suspended him or something like that. He said, okay, I'll go my own way. And he did. He set up SBN. Is it SBN?
Yeah.
And that's become one of the most popular television evangelical
In fact, he's a bit
ministries in history.
Yeah, he's also a bit like Derek Prince.
Yes.
He fell foul of his denomination.
Yes.
And what normally happens is with these sort of superstar Christians is they start a new ministry.
And it's successful. Certainly was to Derek Prince.
I mean, they say, who you're accountable to. That's always a good buzzword.
Yeah.
But once they get their wings clipped, they don't stick around. They pack the bags and go. Of course, Jimmy and Derek were able to relaunch their careers to be even more successful. But just one final thought on Swaggart's issue. It's not just him who holds this. All Pentecostals, AOG, Assemblies of God, Charismatics, all have this issue with once saved, always saved. They basically teach a faith and works package, plan of salvation, like the Catholic Church does. You're only saved if, or if you do this or that, you lose your salvation. There's a heavy emphasis on repentance all of the time. Repenting before you go to bed every night, confessing your sins before sleep every night, which of course you should do for your fellowship, but not for your salvation. So I wasn't really a big fan of Swaggart, I must admit. The music was brilliant. I mean, a great pianist, no doubt about it. But as a preacher, for me, I didn't think much of him, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, so and getting back to Barry Smith, of course, tragically, his daughter committed suicide, and he did separate from the group that he was involved with.
They cut him off. They cut him off.
He went and he said, "Okay, I'll go my
In fact,
way."
they said his daughter was in hell.
That's right. And he had her buried on his farm. He had a big farm and he had plenty of land there then. So that was that. Okay, so that's all on Jimmy Swaggart, I think. And incidentally, today is the 90th birthday of the Dalai Lama, another important religious figure that strides the churches and the corridors of the world. Dalai Lama turns up all over the place. He's a great friend of our king here. Buddhism. Now, you've studied a lot of the religions. You've written about a lot of the religions, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Muslims, the Hindus. You've even touched on some of them, not so well, man. The Fillmores, you looked at them, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, the Unity Church occult. The Unity Religion of Christianity.
You looked at them, and I remember that. Buddhism. Have you looked at that, studied that? What did you find about that?
Well, for them, of course, it's reincarnation. The idea is...
And Hindus, of course.
Hindus as well, strict vegans, because, of course, if they eat meat, they're eating their ancestors.
Yeah. You tread on an ant, it could be your brother.
It could be a deceased relative.
Yeah.
I mean, we know a lot of people in our town, a lot of people. I was speaking to a Hindu gentleman week before last. Nice old gentleman, very friendly. Can't get through to him at all. His name is Ram. Please pray for him.
Yeah.
And I saw him about a week ago or so, and he was doing some gardening. And I said to him, everything okay? Do you want me to help you? Oh, no. Very friendly. And I said to him, they said to me, I want to get my house painted, front of the house, so on and so forth. So I said to him, that's not really my remit, painting.
You know the paintbrushes.
Yeah.
The roller. Good.
But I said to him, I know somebody who could perhaps help you. Now, this guy I know...
It wasn't me.
He's a Catholic. Now, Patrick witnessed him many times over the years. Yeah. He's from Vietnam. His name's Tran. Tran and Ram, you like it? Please pray for these gentlemen. And I mean, this is crazy. I mean, yesterday I go to town to do street work, and this big Muslim guy walks over to me like a wrestler.
Yeah, literally.
And I had a really heavy day yesterday. A lot of attacks against me yesterday. And I'm on the street giving out tracts, and about this big guy comes sort of waddling towards me, sort of towering over me.
Yeah,
And I'm not a
literally.
small guy, by the way, but he's sort of towering over me.
Yeah.
And it was 50 minutes of some intense stuff. I'll tell you, really intense stuff. And I'm talking to this Muslim guy about the gospel, trying to, shut his mouth, as it were, but staying calm. Don't lose your rag with these people. They always have this sort of persecution complex. So keep it calm. And I'm talking to this guy, an old a ram comes walking towards me. Hello, James. Shakes my hand, and he says to me, "Old Tran came around to give me a quote, for the painting, so on and so forth." I thought, here we are doing street work.
Too much money.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help these two guys, as it were, with just everyday stuff. I mean, so I'm sort of talking to this ram who's a Hindu, and I tried to get the gospel through to him. Really hard work. He said, "My God, this and my God." In fact, just last week he said to me, "Come and see my gods in the back of my house." So I've got to go and I've got to meet somebody.
And how many gods do they have?
Oh, many.
Yeah.
But I'm talking to this Muslim guy who knows one of the guys in town who I've known for about 15 years, who I locked horns with many times over the years, one of the elders at the local mosque. I mean, we know so many people in our town. Yeah. It's tragic, really, because we can't get through to these people whatsoever. No. But the point being, I'm talking to this Muslim guy, I got this Hindu guy, and I got this Catholic guy, I'm sort of trying to get through to. But with Hinduism, with Buddhism, they're all linked into eat well, live well, pray well, believe in yourself also, pray, fast, and it's basically just live a good life. Now, of course, with Buddhism, their concept of hell isn't what you find in Islam or Christianity. It goes back to Buddha, of course, and Confucius, all that stuff. Yeah, it's all paganism. We know that, of course. Confucius saying all that stuff.
Confucius say, yeah.
But they all have a knowledge of good, which is a good starting point, and of evil, again, good starting point. But when you bring Jesus up and his death, burial, and resurrection, it gets a bit sort of foggy, bit kind of cloudy. The old brakes go on, and yet they all respect him. Blessed be his name. That's what the Muslims say. Of course, for them it's Isa, not Jesus, as I told this guy yesterday. Hinduism, they accept Jesus as being divine. I think Mary as well, his mother. In fact, I spent about 20 minutes trying to get through to this guy yesterday about Mary not being the mother of God. But anyway, so a lot of strange beliefs, all mixed up. And of course, if you're ecumenical, if you're a Roman Catholic, you're very much at home with these people, because of course they are all men of goodwill and all heading to a meagre point.
Well, funny enough, whilst you were doing this young girl came along. They were feral kids, as we call them. I don't know if you call them in America, but feral kids. They got that sort of gypsy thing about them.
Travelers.
She came along with two of her brothers, stopped and took a tract. It's always a little bit uncomfortable with these people, because you next know they're going to go. So she took some tract, and I said, "This is about Jesus. Do you guys know about a little brother there?" "Oh yeah, we know about Jesus." And I think they probably do, because we went to a church years ago, a travelers' church, you remember?
Yeah.
And very devoted to the Lord and so forth. Anyway, I did a little bit of witness to them, and they get quite close to you, the big tall brother and the smaller brother. And she suddenly said, "I like you. Can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Yes." She threw her arms around, but she wouldn't let go. And it's always a little bit awkward when something like that happens. So it had to start to push her away. She was slightly immodestly dressed as well. But they took some tracts. The brother took a tract. I said, "Go home and read it tonight. You've got to be firm with these people." So whilst you had that, I had the feral kids. Now, talking about statues, you mentioned Tran. I went into his house for the first time. He said, "Can you come in? I'll get you some coffee samples," funny enough. And I went into his front room. Massive, great statue of Mary. It must have come out of a church. I'm literally about 6 foot high. This
only 6 foot?
Only 6 foot. And I looked at it, and he'd obviously he'd rescued it or stolen it or whatever from a church, and then he'd gone afterwards and painted the eyes and the lips, and the photo, it did everything to it. So I was very uncomfortable about that. I said, "I've got to go now," quite I said, and I got out there, because he wanted to find in the other rooms. You would have gone into Ram's house.
No, I wouldn't have gone into Ram's house. I'm not that keen to help him out.
He's got 1,000 gods, so probably each room has one of them. Is a Ganesh, and I can't remember the name of them. Oh, Kali and Kali
Minogue.
Ganesh, Kali Minogue, and so forth. Getting back to the Buddhist, now something else. There was a very popular television series, I don't know if you remember it, called Kung Fu.
Yes.
Very, very popular in the 70s. This Buddhist monk who goes through America, spreading good word, doing good works, but he can defend himself because he knows Kung Fu. And of course, the whole series is built around all these bullies taking them on there. And he takes about 6 or 7 of them down. He does his Kung Fu, then he turns around and he goes back to his, he has a god who goes there with him with a big moustache, I remember, and he bows down to the god. But and of course, the whole thing about this kung fu, isn't it? Certainly caught on here a few years ago. That you had to bow before you started. You remember, and you paid homage to this god.
Sensei and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
Karate,
right.
martial arts.
Karate, martial art. It all springs
Taekwondo.
from this Buddhism thing. We don't kill, but we know how to defend ourselves. And this actor, his name was David Carradine, I remember. That's right. Very, very popular series, Kung Fu. There was a song.
But that girl slightly spooked you, didn't she?
She did slightly spook me, yes, because the little brother looked up to me and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "It begins with P. It's not Philip, and it's not Paul, and it's not Person." He said, "Patrick." Wow. And I said, "Very good, top of the class then." The brother, yeah. She said, "We got an Uncle Patrick. He's a real joker." I thought, yeah, I bet he is. He's Irish as well. He can drink 15 glasses of Guinness and still stand on his head and recite the Hail Marys or something.
A good Catholic boy.
A good Catholic boy. So that slightly spooked me. She wouldn't let go. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So out of this Buddhism came Kung Fu, very, very important. And if you're listening now, if you know anything about this or you've been involved in any of these sects, please let us know. We only know what we read. And what
of course, yoga
about.
also feeds into a lot of this as well. Not just the breathing, but the exercises.
Now, funnily enough, I passed a church the other day, and all these ladies came up with their rolled up bowl there. Obviously,
the mats.
That's right,
like the prayer mats.
And a lot of these churches now, there's a bit of stick back in the years ago. A lot of these churches are letting out their halls to these ladies to come along to
church top of my road's got it.
There we are, you see. They'll say, yeah, the hall is £60 an hour, whatever it is, yeah, we'll take it. And of course, they all want money, these churches. Yeah. And of course, all these ladies going in, must have been about 20 of them coming in there, having their yoga classes, which spins out from Kung Fu, which spins out from the Buddhists and so forth. So if you've got anything about this, let us know. But yeah, it's interesting.
Of course, the spirits that you're in contact with as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Ram's got about, I think he told me he's got 300 gods. Load of statues. I started pulling his leg a while ago. I said to him, "Do you have any statues in your house?" He got a bit sort of coy about it.
Yeah.
He said, "How do you know?" And I said, "I know you because you're very religious. You've got the old thing on the forehead, the old."
I'm not sure what that is. Is it the third eye?
I mean, it's like the third eye. Yeah.
The Hindu ladies have this red mark on their forehead. It's the third eye.
Yeah.
But this isn't red, is it? It's a sort of.
It's like a powder thing.
That he puts on there. It obviously means something. I think he told you he had 10 liters of water flown in from India, from the river Ganges, which is full of, I won't tell you because everybody goes and washes it, even the animals go in there.
Yeah.
Sent over here, this is holy water, which he does. And I think he told me that every morning before, he's getting on now, but he'd get a bucket of cold water. He suggested I do, and probably you stand naked in your garden, bucket of cold water, and throw it over yourself. The shock gets all the blood going. Yeah, probably. And I said, yeah, probably get a heart attack.
It's like the old ice water bucket challenge.
That's right, the ice water bucket challenge. So this ties in with some Hindu ritual that they have to perform.
See, again, we've already been forgiven. When I spent 50 minutes with this big guy yesterday, from Pakistan, I said to him, "I've already been forgiven." I gave him the scriptures. "Oh, no, you haven't been forgiven." Trying to tell me what I believe about my religion. And I said, they got to earn their salvation. You've got yours. Exactly.
This isn't right. You've got yours.
Don't be so presumptuous.
And don't be so patronising as well. We've got to earn our salvation.
But the key with these Muslims is you've got to stay calm because they want you to retaliate. I say, look at these Christians. Aren't they violent?
Yeah.
And if you can, this isn't easy, I know, but if you can stay calm and keep smiling, you'll shut them out in many different ways, I tell you.
Well, he walked away from you, didn't he, in the end?
Yeah, he walked away from me in the end, which is a good sign, actually.
They play the old language card a lot, don't
yes.
they? Do you know the Arabic for this? Do you know the Egyptian for that? Did he play this with you?
Not so much, no. I mean, the problem that they have an advantage over us. If these guys speak Arabic, the chance they speak Aramaic as well, because they're quite near.
There's many dialects in Arabic, isn't there?
Well, but the point being,
which one are we talking about? And of course, who can do it? Go on.
Yeah, but if they know Arabic, they speak Aramaic. Yeah. Of course, Jesus spoke more Aramaic than Hebrew. Yeah. Although the word of God is written in Greek, of course. So you get into this sort of Greek, Aramaic, Hebrew game, which you're not up on. If you're not gifted with languages, which I'm not, then you're slightly in the back foot. I always feel with Islam, if you're not quite, we're ex-Catholics, that's more our bag. Catholic Church, cults. Islam, I'm still reading through the Quran very slowly. I must admit I've lost interest, but I will finish it one day. But dealing with Muslims, especially those who have been given the Taoist script, if you're not on your toes, they'll just completely bulldoze you. In fact, this guy came back twice yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
He went off the first time, came back about 20 minutes later. We did round 2, and the whole thing was about 50 minutes long. Maybe I spent too much time. I don't know. But all I would say is, if you do street work,
You planted the seed.
it's not just that. You've got to know what
Yeah,
you're talking about, and you've got to know where the enemy's coming from. I'll give you a quick example. One winter, King James, who was a scholar in his own right, spent an entire winter preparing for a debate with a Jesuit. An entire winter. I'm not saying I'll spend hours now as dealing with Islam or Muslims, but in some ways you probably do. You need, in some ways, you've got to know what you're talking about, because if you don't know what you're talking about, they'll just completely bulldoze you. That being said, they'll still talk over you anyway. I mean, they really are good at talking over you, but at least if you know enough about their religion, shut their mouths, it gives you, a bit more sort of credence, as it were. But the most important thing is to know the word of God, know the scriptures, and go to the scriptures. Which for me, I can do that. But with Islam, the hadith, and the Qurans and the wash and the halves and all that stuff, not really my bag. I mean, I can handle it just about. But my point being, for my brothers out there who do street work, just be prepared for the Islamic attack. Just a quick thing, please give this a like if you would be so kind. We have 24 people on the live stream, only 9 likes, and keep us in prayer. We need your support. We are a very busy and also stretched ministry at the moment, so please stand with us if you can each month financially. We do need your help, please.
Yeah, just getting back to that 70 series Kung Fu, and if you watched it, can you let us know? He was a Buddhist monk who wandered through America doing it, but his name was Grasshopper, I remember. That was it, Grasshopper. And somehow he seemed to be in communion with this spirit that goes with him, this elderly spirit who says to him, "Be careful, Grasshopper, there is danger ahead," and 10 men would be waiting for them, and he'd floor them all. Oh, he did a lot of this business on their throats, and he'd floor them all. And he'd say, "That's enough, Grasshopper. They could be our brothers. Careful though." And this series actually caught on, but I remember that. So if you've ever been in any of these Kung Fu or Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido, all of these things, it's all from all of this, and it's all bowing down before these demonic gods.
In fact, I think the term sensei means master.
Yeah.
Or holy one. I mean, you gotta be careful. You can do exercises, of course, and boxing and physical, contact, but some of the stuff goes into the occult.
Yes, the occult. Yeah.
There's a great book called The Lure of the Occult. The Lure of the Occult. It's worth getting. It goes through all these Eastern religions, which I think most of us in this part of the world are probably a little bit ignorant on, and it's probably worth just brushing ourselves up on what these groups actually hold to.
Sorry, the men have got into all this martial arts thing, and the women have got into yoga.
Yeah,
it's good for the mind. You get all these celebrities having it done. All these pop stars. Oh, I have my half hour of yoga every morning. I crouch there and I go and like all of this. Yeah. And as I say, I pass these churches, and where you are, and all these ladies coming out with their rolled up prayer mat, having their yoga classes. Yeah. And there was some stick really some years ago. Should the vicar of this church allow all this to go on? And some said, well, we talked to the bishop. It's up to you what do you let. You wonder what else they'd let go in there.
Okay, what else we got?
Okay, move on from there. So yeah, if you've got any views on this you want to talk about, please let us know. The Pope's encyclical we're waiting for. Apparently it's going to be the social gospel. On what? Probably the Ukraine, probably
Third World debt.
Third World debt, the division of wealth and all of this sort of thing. Well, so forth, everything. AI is bound to be in this. So we're looking forward, we're not looking forward to, we're looking at interest to his social first encyclical. The pallium seems to be back, I've noticed. The Pallium, this is what he puts over there. It hangs down the back and it hangs down the front, and it's made of sheep's wool, but it's a bit more than sheep's wool. There's a cloistered order of nuns who have some sheep who make these palliums, and they're blessed by the Pope, and he puts it over there. Now this was being used in Francis' time. He stopped it. No, I don't like it. It's too elitist. Stop it. So we don't have any more. Then it came back in again. Oh, well, maybe we should bring it back. And I think this week 27 archbishops were named by this Pope. I know the English, but most of them from America. And as they went up to get their credentials, the pallium was put over their shoulders. So this is a step back to the traditional things now. Now, I think somehow that this goes back to pre-Vatican II, all of this. It seems to have crept back in again with the vestments and the pallium. And when he came out on the balcony, do you remember he wore this very wide stole? I forget the name for it, which Francis didn't wear. He always just wore his white cassock. So it's just been back. And this ties back to the papal tiara. People say, what happened to the papal tiara? Well, we talked about this before, I know. Up to Paul VI, every pope wore it. Could you tell them what it symbolizes?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, the triple tiara meant you were Lord of Heaven, earth and hell.
Yeah.
And I've always made the argument over the years that if the Pope really is the vicar of Christ, if he's Lord of the underworld, of course purgatory would be in the underworld, I'd imagine, if you are a devout Catholic, why not free all those souls from purgatory?
Yeah.
Why leave them to suffer? because of course people are paying to get their relatives out of purgatory.
And you never know where they're coming out either.
Oh, it's pitiful. The whole thing is pitiful. But I think you're right. There's a bit of nostalgia coming back in, a sort of longing for the Tridentine or the Latin Mass, as it is referred to.
And he's also ending his thing now. He's opening it in nomine Patris et Filii, whereas before it used to be in the dialect of the country. So nomine Patris Filii Spiritus Sancti. You get Catholics know what I'm talking about. But I think the Triple Tiara, it was auctioned in New York at Sotheby's. Sotheby's in London, Sotheby's in New York. It was an auction there, and I think it raised $1 million. And the money was supposed to raise money for the poor.
Yeah.
But there was a mystery buyer, so we never knew what happened. And I think the Vatican bought it back. I think it's kept in the.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's kept in St. Peter's in a temperature filled, temperature set room, and I think it'll come out when the Antichrist comes back with the false prophets.
Yes.
I think the false prophet will be from a religious system. I think it's a Catholic system.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. People say, oh, it could be the Mormons, could be this. No, it's got to be the Catholic system, the false prophet, and I think it'll come out and it'll go back on his head again.
Yeah, I mean, Lord of heaven, hell, and the earth simultaneously. But of course, it went out in '65 because the Catholic Church saw themselves as
they
being.
Want to simplify everything.
Yeah.
And of course, there's one thing.
Too elitist.
Yeah, too elitist. And there's even talk of wearing these white cassocks. This came in then, And
losing the collar.
And the collar was supposed to go as well. But this white cassock that he wears, I mean, why is a symbol of purity? Bride, she goes to the dress in her wedding, it's just a symbol of purity. A lot of them aren't, of course, as one priest told me, he do them, he came out, I think one priest, he officiated a wedding, who I'm talking about, our little friend, and he said the bride came up with a low cut tie, and he looked like just come from a nightclub.
Yeah.
And he
definitely.
said, this isn't acceptable. Oh, this isn't acceptable. And he made sure that she went home, got on something a bit more respectable for this wedding there. So I think, we're seeing something like this come in now. The white cassock was supposed to go. All these coloured vestments were supposed to go. The Berettas did go. No doubt the Berettas did go. They all wore the Berettas and everything else there. So there's a step back to Tridentine Mass and so forth. Whether it'll go all
more
the way
conservatism.
Well, you can't
traditional.
You can't have social gospel, preaching social gospel. We've got to stand up for the poor and go back to more traditional role. I mean, to help the poor, the church has got to get rid of all its riches and all its churches around the world and all the bank accounts that they have, all these these accounts that they have, So something's going on there.
Or their real estate as well.
And their real estate as well. Well,
they own half of Jerusalem, half of Israel.
They own half, and we went there and we found out. I don't think they own the upper room, somebody was saying.
I'm not sure.
Oh, they don't own the upper room yet. This is back in about 20 years ago we went there. And I seem to remember that Gerard Kushner, who owned half of New York, and he bought that big building. Do you remember what the address of the big building was that he bought?
Was it where they made Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah, and it was called 666. Do you remember that? And that's where Rosemary's Baby. Now, those of you who don't know your films, Rosemary's Baby was Rosemary has a baby.
Farrow.
Mia Farrow, that's right, Mia Farrow, and I can't remember who the author of that was. That's interesting as well. If you know what I'm talking about, these films and so forth, please correct me or add to it if you don't know. Rosemary's Baby is this woman finds herself pregnant. She goes along to this seance. It comes into a black mass, and she's impregnated. Oh dear! And the baby's. She doesn't know this, of course. She's innocent. Mia Farrow, met Frank Sinatra at the time, and Rosemary's Baby was filmed there. Now the interesting thing about that was the author was a guy called R11, and he wrote another very successful film called The Stepford Wives. Do you remember that?
I don't think so.
No, Stepford Wives is a group of women who are very holy. They do everything their husband says, But R11 was in the OSS that were based in Europe. I've got to get this right. In Holland during the war.
The CIA, before the CIA.
The CIA, it was the OSS. R11 was there. Jewish, of course, but he could speak some languages. And he met Anne Frank's father.
Another controversial character, Anne Frank's father.
And the story is Anne Frank's father came back from the wars. He went up to the loft where the attic where the family was, and he found Anne Frank's diary. Now we find out that he also knew R11. He said, let me have a look at this, see if I can do something. Because he'd been what they call, not a spin doctor, a script doctor. In Hollywood, they have a script doctor. The script goes for the film, then the doctor comes and does that. That's his job. He gets it up. John Huston did this in a lot of films. He's not credited, but they get paid for it. And R11 looked at this, and he did something to this. And, of course, the rest is Anne Frank's diary. We know all about it. The film was made. It's the biggest tourist pull in Amsterdam. Yes. If you go in there, we got to Anne Frank's house, and one of our sisters went there. She said she found it a little bit spooky. So that's that. I don't know what's got to do what we're talking about. No, I know. I've slightly gone off the point here.
Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's
I think
Baby.
also, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Jared Kushner, and he found out he owned half of New York, and he said the Archdiocese of New York owned the rest of it. He said they've had 400 years to buy up all this property, and they have had 400 years to buy up half of Boca.
That's why
Manhattan,
Trump is friends with Dolan.
or the five, the suburbs of New York, Queens, is it? Hoboken, Manhattan. I can't remember the rest of them. They had then, so that's why he's from there. So Harlem, of course, that's right. Yeah, Harlem in those days was a very upmarket white area, and of course it became a black there. So that's the social gospel. So you have a social gospel. We've got to stand up for the poor. We've got to feed the poor. The poor got to be fed. And as you said before, when Jesus fed the 5,000,
only once,
he didn't go back. And apparently someone picked up when the Pope was making one of his litany talks to seminarians. He was talking about the 5,000 are there, and they'd run out of the food that they'd brought. Well, the whole thing, they didn't bring any food with them. No. Jesus had to feed them, the 5,000. You know, as you see, he didn't come back. Hold on, I'll come back. I'll get some more food. That was it then. So the social gospel, but we've got to pull back slightly. You know,
there's no offence with the social gospel either.
No,
because left or right politicians can embrace it.
Well, the left always claim it's their prerogative.
Yeah, but I mean, even right-wing governments have social welfare, and also,
that's right.
You know, sort of like a social gospel put in place.
This leads me very carefully into what I was talking to one guy, and he was talking about the Democratic Party. He was a social commentator. It's called the Demonic Party. And he said if you look at the Democrat Party, they're into choice, LGBT, climate, feed the poor. And somebody said, well, wait a minute, you know, ban all weapons. We don't like guns. We want bans. Somebody said, well, JFK was a member of the NRA. Didn't know that. The NRA, National Rifle Association. I think Peter Ruckman was as well. He was a member.
Yeah.
So that was it, Dominican Party. Now, last Sunday was very interesting. We had our Sunday service, as we have done every Sunday for the last, 20 years or so forth?
Nearly, yeah.
And you were preaching on Peter in prison. Can you tell us what you were preaching on? The chains?
Exactly, yeah. So Peter's been detained by the Sanhedrin, of course. They've been wanting to interrogate him over the
Book
gospel.
Of Acts, wasn't it?
Book of Acts, chapter 11.
Yeah.
And incredibly, Leo the 14th, at the same time I was preaching, verse by verse, was actually doing his own exegesis, in quote marks, of course.
That's right.
From the same text.
There was a solemn mass, and they had the readings, and the reading was from the Book of Acts that you'd read. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is that if you look at all the saints in the Catholic Church, they all have their own saints day, don't they? St. Patrick, St. Anne, St. Thomas, all of them. But for some reason, Peter and Paul share the same day. It's the feast of St. Peter, and last Sunday was the feast of St. Peter and St. Paul. Interesting this. Why don't they get separated? Why are they going to be?
Well, they both died separately. Didn't die at the same time, did they?
Well, we have St. James, we have St. Andrew, we have all the others, St. George, St. Gregory, all of these people. But Peter and Paul, you guys have got to share the same day. And so this priest came up there and he was preaching exactly what you said, Peter in chains. I thought, isn't that a coincidence? I thought that's very interesting there. Why they share the same day. If you know something, please tell us why. So that's all I want to say on that. Now, something that I read from last week. Yes, that's right. Now, we've been looking at the Church of England. I don't know why, neither to connect with the Church of England, but we're always interested in the logistics of what's going on there. And the See of Canterbury, SEA, not SEE, is still vacant. No Archbishop of Canterbury yet. And apparently one of the senior archbishops, probably the Archbishop of York, we're going to have to welcome Donald Trump when he comes here, because that's part of the Archbishop of Canterbury's duties when he comes here.
Yeah, state visit.
Now, somebody was saying, why has it gone on so long, this whole thing now? Well, apparently they set up a committee of 20 people to find a suitable candidate they could put forward to the General Synod to say, we want this person. And one of the candidates in this committee is the previous head of MI5.
Wow.
MI5, isn't that amazing? So we've just had a new MI5 appointee put in there, and I wonder whether the church was involved with the selection of this person. I doubt it somehow. And she's been put in. Is it MI5, MI6? It's MI5. MI5.
Internal FBI.
And she's the first woman to get the job. Yeah. Congratulations to her. But the Daily Mail picked up that her paternal grandfather years ago was tied in with the Nazis in the Ukraine. And that was all slightly airbrushed out there. But so that's come through there. And the Daily Mail said, yes, her paternal grandfather, going back to 1944, was involved with some of the death squads in the Ukraine, helping the Nazis. And of course, they shredder, they jump in. The sins of the fathers be upon us. Now, could you tell us a bit more about this at the crucifixion, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Jews say in Matthew 27, let his blood be on us and on our children.
Yeah.
And in Luke 24, Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. So you got these two truths running parallel. But the truth of the matter is, the Jews, when they turned Jesus down, pay the consequences of that. We know that, of course, that church history. But the common belief with the sins of the fathers is held by a lot of charismatics and Pentecostals that if you're not careful, when you get saved, that's not enough. There may be a generational curse that's still on you. And this goes back to, again, Barry Smith, who put a prayer out, had set a Freemason free. Well, if you're saved, you're safe from any, past issues, so on and so forth. But the consequences can follow you. If you came from a family full of Freemasons or Muslims or Kabbalists, whatever it might be, you're saved by the blood of Christ, of course, but the consequences can sometimes follow you. You may have drink in your family. You may have narcotics in your family. You may have gambling in your family. Just because you're saved, I mean, as far as your standing is concerned, you're fine, but your state may not be. And what normally happens is those who have this belief that you pay for your father's sins like to misquote the scriptures that somehow you're going to pay for your family's sins. Not directly, Christ already covered your sins, but sometimes indirectly. So getting saved is the easy part, but after you are saved, you've got to untangle yourself from all of the sins or some of the consequences that you've had to experience with your upbringing, as it were.
I mean, the implication seems to be that we are all guilty by association of our parents, our grandparents' infirmities. Now, my father was, as you know, he was out in Burma. He fought there for 4 years, then he went back to Germany. But he's out in Burma. He liberated some of the prison war camps. I don't know what he got up to there in those 4 years. No, in Burma. He was there for 4 years in Burma.
Okay.
Then he went to Germany in 1944, and he was in Hamburg, and he landed on the D-Day beaches. He went through there. He did all that. I don't know what he got up to. He may have done some awful atrocities, but that doesn't affect me or you.
No.
We will make our own mistakes. We'll be judged by what we did, not what he did.
What does happen is how our parents, our grandparents raised us can affect you down the line.
Yeah.
You could have a very abusive mother who has a really wicked tongue. I mean, I feel it was some famous person said they couldn't stop cussing.
Yeah.
Who was the woman in the Waltons, the female actress in the Waltons?
Yeah, Olivia. Yeah, I know you mean Mrs. Walton. Yeah.
And she was she'd be always cussing all the time
in front of the children, the young.
And they said you can't do that.
No, not in front of the children.
But it was
second nature,
from her parents.
From the parents,
and it's like blasphemy. Here's another one: blasphemy. OMG, JC. People do that. Young people, because their parents do it.
Yeah.
The grandparents do it. We knew a woman years ago. She used to come out with Hell's Bells.
Oh yeah, Hell's Bells.
Because her mother always said that.
Yeah.
If her mother was into witchcraft, and her father was a real violent character. But the point being, you can suffer the consequences of your parents' demeanor, their speech, the sharpness. All those things. They can follow you through, but you're still safe and saved by the blood of Christ. But the consequences, they can follow you along, and that's why when you first get saved, you've got to spend time with the Lord. And Paul spent 3 years in the wilderness trying to free himself from Judaism. It's tough. And your old nature, that's always part of your old nature. I've given you the accounts over the years of former Muslims that get saved. They still hate the Jews sometimes. I mean, they love the Jew now, but deep down, they still have that hostility. It's been inbred.
Always there.
It's hard to shake off. What I say, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. It's tough. It's tough.
Okay, well, that's that then there. So we wish her well, this lady of MI6 who's taken over.
Yeah.
She's got a lot on her plate to sort out. I hope this whole thing, what her great-grandfather did, doesn't affect her too much. I don't know much about her. Seems to be not sure about a road school. I think she went to Cambridge or Oxford. So
yeah, normally
they do. MI6, now that's all overseas. MI5 is internal.
Yeah.
I wish MI5 was sorted out. London, apparently we're told, it's one of the worst crime capitals in Europe.
And the boat people.
And the boat people coming over 1,000 a week or something coming over. They can't
1,000 a day.
1,000 a day. London, you got the knife crime going on there, the rape crime going on there. And these people, MI5 can't seem to do that. And they went to university, some of these people went to Oxford, Cambridge. But they can't solve this one, can they? They can't stop the boat people.
Nope.
Okay, and probably that's part of the whole thing. This ties in with the, the Human Court of Human Rights, HRMC, that ties in with that. ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, that you've got to give these people right. They're fleeing from something.
What, from Paris?
Yeah.
It's very dangerous in Paris.
Well, it is actually in parts of Paris. You don't want to go
I
down
don't
there.
know. I like Paris.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll always have Paris. Do you remember
Yeah.
in Casablanca?
Go on.
All these films. I hope you people are listening now. You've talked about some of these films that I'm dropping in there. R11, Stepford Wives, Rosemary's Baby, all of them. It all
And
ties
all
in.
these films have they have a
yes,
they have a
there's all
gospel.
the biblical themes.
They have a
in the gospel,
message.
yeah.
I think is it Omen? Is the Antichrist?
Now the Omen. Yes,
The Antichrist.
Antichrist comes back. New American ambassador.
See, Hollywood's obsessed
yeah.
with the Bible, but they twist it. Look at the Chosen series with Dallas Jenkins. Is it Jenkins Dallas Jenkins.
Didn't see it.
No, it's very popular all over America. I mean, it's made millions. And his father wrote some of the books with Hal Lindsey.
Oh right.
You know, about the rapture and the second coming.
Rapture, second coming. Yeah.
But Hollywood are obsessed with the rapture. Well, not so much with the rapture, but with the Bible, with God Almighty, the second coming. They twist it, so they want to entertain you, not evangelize you.
Well, The Omen, of course, that was a big hit back in the 80s. New American ambassadors come to London. Gregory Peck, his wife's Lee Remick. Somehow they get involved with this little child who's brought to them. He's he's the devil incarnate. But and this goes back to The Exorcist, of course. We saw what happened in The Exorcist. This Jesuit priest has brought in Max von Sydow, who's been out in the desert finding these strange artifacts of some and lost civilization. He comes back, has to cast this spirit out of this child. What was her name? Reagan. Oh, they are. You see, you remember it. And he's a Jesuit, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's got an assistant with him.
It's a powerful film for 1970.
Very powerful film. And some of the special effects, this child coming down the stairs backwards.
In fact, I've heard of people over the years have got saved actually watching these types of movies because they realise if there's a devil, there has to be a God.
A lot of things happened making of that film. You know, we're missing about the devil. The lights were going out. Some of the actors up in the loft, you know, filming down, the lights fell down.
But the same happened when they made The Passion in 2004.
Mel Gibson, yep, The Passion.
A lot of weird stuff took place.
Weird stuff happened there, but everyone remembers it. In fact, there was an Exorcist too, I think. And the Amityville Horror. Do you remember that? That was another one.
Not so well.
The Amityville Horror. A priest had to be called in. Another Jesuit. He comes in there. That's the cast.
And the priest's always the good guys.
He's always the good guys.
And the Protestants always the bad guys. Have you noticed that?
Well, this goes back to the 30s. You remember Spencer Tracy with Boys Town? Do you remember Boys Town? Father Spencer Tracy goes in there, and all these delinquent kids are coming into his home, and he says, "There's no such thing as a bad boy." Father Flanagan of Boys Town, and don't forget Bing Crosby played the priest 3 times.
Elmer Gantry.
Elmer Gantry, yeah, that was Burt
Billy
Lancaster.
Sunday.
Now Elmer Gantry was Burt Lancaster, and he hated Billy Graham.
Yes.
Until he took
I think Billy Sunday, wasn't it?
Billy Sunday, he hated Billy Sunday, and Elmer Gantry is this priest, and he put the money up for this, I believe. Burt Lancaster, Elmer Gantry.
See, they've got an axe to grind, Hollywood.
They've got an axe to grind with all of these things there. So all these films, I hope you're listening to all these films.
And the Hayes Commission.
The Hayes Commission brought in by Hayes, a Catholic, to clean up Hollywood.
Who was a Methodist guy? There was Catholic and a Methodist, wasn't there?
I can't remember the Methodist guy, but Joseph Hayes, and he was a friend of Joe Kennedy's. I think Joe Kennedy nominated him. He owned Republic Studios. All this information you're getting there, all useless information.
Well, it's not useless because it all
ties in.
It explains the public psyche.
Yeah.
You know what we've had to go through over the last 50 years. So what we've gone through. Those that have watched TV, grown up watching TV movies.
Yeah, I know.
The seed's being planted to create a very skeptical and cynical generation.
And these films are aimed at young minds, of course, impressionable minds.
Yeah,
not so much old mind, but these minds are impressionable. Like these feral kids I spoke to yesterday, knew about Jesus and all this sort of thing. There, and probably I mentioned some of these films. They're probably known about them as well. Okay, well, we move on from the films. And if you've got anything to add to this and Kung Fu, or you've got someone in the family who's doing yoga, does it benefit them in any way?
Of course
How
not.
do they get involved in it?
Of course
You want
not.
to tell us about there now?
It just feeds the flesh. This is the bottom line. It makes people feel they're doing something to earn their way to heaven. Of course, they're not. Just a
Now,
waste
the
of time.
German bishops, the Synod German bishops, are still on this homosexual kick. We need to have an understanding the needs of the homosexuals. Now, we believe here that you're not born a homosexual.
No.
You're not born a homosexual. You're not born a wife beater. You decide. It's an act that you decide. You decide to become homosexual. You become a wife beater and so forth. And you can't say this, well, I was born a wife beater. I'm born a serial killer. The courts won't go for it. But they say, we've got to understand them. We've got to understand they've got
Because most of the priests are homosexual.
they've got
This is the problem.
As we talked about, that was the nuns. Are pro
lesbian
lesbianism
as well,
and so
the nuns,
forth.
yeah.
And so they're saying is we've got to try and understand the homosexuals, not understand poverty. Why can't we understand poverty? Well, poverty comes from the rich. We don't like the rich. That's why we're Marxists, because Marx didn't like the rich. Well, Marx never had a job in his life.
No.
His patron did, Frederick Engels. He owned factories in Manchester. We've been to Manchester. We've seen some of those big factories that he owned. Without Engels, you would have got this capital. Cardinal Caspar, 92 years old, a senior German cardinal. He's been asked about the role of women, and he said, yes, I think it's time for women to be ordained as deacons. Ah, right, but only for a limited time. And he said, we'll make sure that they won't become ordained. Yeah, sounds like some strings attached here. You can become a deacon. Do I take the next step to become a priest? Well, we don't know about this. And we might want you to sign something like prenuptial. You know, you have to sign these prenuptials, that you won't become a priest. So he hands out one hand. I don't see why we can't have women deacons only. And he's looking at nuns, because he's saying most of them are taking the vow of poverty, chastity, obedience, and most of them have anyway. They've got a foot in the church. They know what's all about. They know the mass. They go to mass every day. They're the sort of women we need to become priests. But they've got to be deacons first, and maybe they may have to sign something. So I'm not sure what the cardinal's talking about there. So he's 92. Either they don't do that. Yes, he said, that's right. Possibly sign a contract here. But they cannot be ordained as priests, and they certainly couldn't do parish work. What else are priests going to do if they don't do parish work?
It's to like sort of carry the bag, isn't it? Well, like a sort of bag boy.
A bag boy, that's right. So
the nuts and bolts, basically.
You can help the priest when he's up on the altar. In fact, you can stand with him on the altar. In fact, even say some of the opening words, like that priest I knew years ago would come out and say, "The Lord be with you," and all these nuns in the front would say, "The Lord be with you," in unison with him. And he got up his nose, and the congregation answered, "And also with you." You Catholics or ex-Catholic, you know what I'm talking about. Would this be binding? No. Nuncio. Yes. Now, according to an interview with George Gershwin, I hope I pronounced his name correctly. You probably know who I'm
Gorgeous George, they call him.
Gorgeous George. He's getting on a bit now. He looked a little bit old, but he was he came from Bavaria. One of the rumors was he was originally involved with the St. Pius X Society, Pio Nono. These are the people who see the Catholic Church as a left-wing organization. The true church was under Pius XII. After that, it's went into the world of Freemasonry, homosexuality, and Marxism. That's right, what they say. And we've kept
Save the Whale.
And Save the Whale, that's right. So they've set that up now. Now, whether he went along, there was a seminary or not, I don't know. It's doubted. But he went to Rome. He's a doctor of divinity, doctor of law, clever guy. He plays a mean game of tennis. That's why he's called Gorgeous George.
Not golf as well.
You don't wear shorts for golf, but you wear them for tennis. That's why they call him gorgeous. You've got gorgeous legs. I digress from what I'm talking about. It's more serious. Anyway, he got picked to become Archbishop Cardinal Ratzinger's.
Just a quick flip, just to say, Catholic priests are very catty. I mean, Patrick's known many over the years. They really are catty. What you see, is not always what you get. I mean, behind the scenes, they can really let their mouths go. But anyway,
I remember one of the churches I went to, and this is still, it's absolutely true. The elderly gentleman there, he was very devout, loved Mary, rosary every day. The family were up at 6. The family, to say it, the decade of the rosary. He'd go along to the church, did all the masses. Even in his spare time, he'd go out and polishing the pews, polishing and everything, and hoovering, And we went to see one of the, I always remember him and his wife. We went to see one of our friends there who was in the church, in our patrician group, actually. And we're in the front there, and we're talking about what's happened. Suddenly a voice, little badly said, "Let's go into the rosary now. We'll say the sorrowful mysteries of," because the rosary is all made out of different, the sorrowful mysteries, the joyous mysteries, Our Lady's, the joyous, sorrowful mysteries. Oh, right, okay, we said that. But I always remember he was a very devout man. Probably went to confession twice on
very
Saturdays.
humble man.
Very humble man. Very nice.
Yeah, he was. A bit rough around the edges. Old Irish stuff.
Old Irish stuff. And I think he married late in life. He had a son, but I won't say what his name was. And I think he used to go. In those days, they had confessions at 12 o'clock on a Saturday and 6 o'clock. And I think he went to both confessions. And I always remember one of the priests I knew there, and I won't say his name. They said, "Oh, that we call him Monsignor." Blah blah blah. That's an honorary title in the Catholic Church.
They're mocking him.
Mocking him. You have father, you have canon, you have this honorary title, Monsignor, and they called him Monsignor, but they all thought it was very funny. Of course, they knew he was. We went to confession his thick Irish accent. So as you say, they'd be very catty. But George, he's apparently in when he wears shorts. When he plays tennis. I've never seen him, but they called him Gorgeous George. Anyway, he became the secretary to Cardinal Ratzinger. They called him the Pope's Rottweiler. Do you remember that? The German Rottweiler.
And the guy was a liberal.
And the guy was a liberal all along. And of course, he became Pope. I think you thought he was going to become Pope. Do you remember when JP2 died? Karol Wojtyla. One of the names bandied about was Ratzinger, Joseph Ratzinger. And he did become Pope, and he chose the name Benedict, Pope Benedict. Somebody said Eggs Benedict. This is a popular drink you can buy, Eggs Benedict. And he did, and George went with him, and he became his private secretary. Very powerful role, being Pope's private secretary. John the 23rd had one, Monsignor Capovillo, I remember his name was, and He inherited everything from John the 23rd, and I think he got all the books. And this happened with JP2's secretary, Monsignor Jiswisky.
John Paul II.
John Paul II, I'm sorry. His private secretary was, he came straight from the seminary, got ordained, was his private secretary.
Jiswisky.
Yeah. I pronounce it, it's Russian, it's a Polish name.
Another Pole.
And he's now, last I heard, he was the Cardinal of Warsaw.
Of course, every pope has a Jesuit confessor.
Yeah, every pope has a Jesuit confessor.
So the Jesuits have the dirt on every pope.
And somebody said, what do these popes confess? What do you think they confess?
Quite a lot.
What do you think they confess?
Well, they're very pious men, don't forget. So,
what, they missed a rosary, did they? Or
yeah, overslept.
Yeah, so them being
underslept.
No, don't have wicked thoughts or anything
Had
like
too
that.
Too much pizza last night.
No wicked thoughts. Oh, that's good. Anyway. This, George came there and he became his secretary, and he in the Vatican with Pope Benedict. He knew the corridors of the Vatican. Probably knew some corridors even we don't know about. Anyway, he died, and people said, what's going to happen to George? You know, he was at the funeral, and I always remember watching the funeral, Benedict. It was very interesting to watch the theatre of it all. You know, the body was taken from the hospital at night in the hearse. It drove through the streets of Rome in the dark. I mean, you know, candles are being lit. I mean, this is all very sort of Middle Ages, all of this, you know. It's real wonderful theatre there. Brought into the Basilica St. Peter's to lie in state. People queued up to walk by, could see him lying there in state there with all the vestments on and everything.
Well, John says in Revelation, he wondered with great admiration.
Yes.
When he saw the whore on the 7 hills.
That's right.
This monstrosity of a system called Christianity.
And they had the funeral next day. The coffin was brought out into the square of St. Peter's. It was packed. All the dignitaries had come there to this there. I didn't see any of the presents there, I don't think. But I saw George in the front row, deep in front, with an elderly lady next to him who seemed to be very upset with all of this. I had my own ideas about that, but I won't go into that. Next to him was the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgio Meloni. Is that her name? She was there deep in thought. And she seems to turn up a lot of these things there. And she was being comforted by George. He was comforting her. She was very upset by it all. Anyway, then we started hearing rumors. There were serious rumours of disagreements between the pontificate of Francis who'd come in, some backbiting from the old Benedict regime.
Yeah.
And this people say, you know, you're not, you know, it's very strange. You've got two popes in residence in the same place there, you know. George was supposed to be part of all this. Anyway, I heard no more from George. Next thing I saw, I found an interview he gave last week. It actually aged quite a bit, and he's now the nuncio of...
What's a nuncio?
The nuncio is the paper. He's like the ambassador. You remember the Foreign Office. You had the ambassador in Rome or Washington. Very plum jobs, of course. You work up to that, you know. And he's become the nuncio of, not Paris.
No.
Not Rome, afraid not. But Lithuania. Wait a minute, that's the Baltic states. And we've got Latvia, we've got Estonia, we've got, where else have we got those Baltic states? I can't remember.
You've got the old Yugoslavia, haven't you?
Old Yugoslavia,
Kosovo.
Serbia, Kosovo, yeah. And he's the nuncio, so they've given you a job there. I'm not sure, and he's taken this up there, and he said, I'm very delighted with all of this. Well, of course, he would say that. But he did say that actually just near where we are is the Russian border, and the tanks will come straight over the border into Lithuania, where he is. He's in Lithuania, and it could be caught up there. I like to think he got to stand like that in the middle of the road, like that. Remember that in Tiananmen Square? Do you remember that famous Tiananmen Square?
I do.
That student stood there with all the tanks.
Never seen again.
Never seen again, unfortunately. That picture went around the world. I like to think George was...
You know, it's funny, isn't it? All these social justice warriors never take the streets when there's Chinese suppression.
No.
The one-child policy... Those Muslims that are being persecuted in China, put into camps. Listen, I'm not against Muslim people. You know, I believe freedom of religion. I hope you do as well. Any religion, let God deal with those people at the judgment. But you look what China's done over the years, the aggression towards Taiwan. You know, all this psychological warfare that China's pumping out 24/7. These people just go quiet. And yet Israel and Gaza, you can't shut them up.
Not only are the Muslims being persecuted in China and the born-again Christians, but there's an indigenous group there. I think they're called I can't remember their name, but they're being persecuted as well. And yet the Vatican, a couple of years ago, under Cardinal Parolin, who we thought would be the next Pope, but he was Secretary, negotiated a concordat with the Chinese government that they could select their own bishops with the approval of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church normally choose like the Foreign Office. You choose your own ambassador. You say the new ambassador to Germany is such and such. The German government doesn't decide who's going to come there.
Yeah.
You decide. But here, the Chinese people say, who are you putting up? We're nominating this person. Yeah, okay, we're not happy. Then what else you go? Oh, we like him. And he gets the job then. And this was negotiated by Cardinal Parolin. A lot of the priests, a lot of the cardinals from the nearest were unhappy with this because they thought the Chinese government got too much out of this.
Do you remember when the Dalai Lama went to the White House? It may have been under Obama or Trump, I forget. And the pressure was so great that it may have been Obama. They said he can come to the kitchen. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He couldn't go through the front and have all the have the
paparazzi
and the Oval Office meeting.
Yeah.
And because Beijing was so upset with Washington's embrace of the Dalai Lama,
I think it was also a bit of humbling. You arrive at the rose, go through the Rose Garden, if I remember. You always see Trump there. They pull up there, the Marine Band's playing there. You've got everything going there. You've got this marvelous thing there. All the paparazzi are taking the photographs. He gets out, gives a few words. They always go through there. But I think it was decided that the Chinese weren't happy with the Dalai Lama going through the front entrance.
It was through the kitchens, I'm pretty sure.
He went through the kitchen. Some said, because he's a humble man. He's going through the kitchen with the kitchen workers, and he shakes hands with the kitchen workers.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to go through the front. Jesus wouldn't have gone through the front door, would he? He came through the kitchens. And Bobby Kennedy went through the kitchens. Do you remember?
Yeah,
when he was the ambassador, he went through the kitchens. Where did he get assassinated? In the kitchens by one of the chefs.
But it shows the power that Beijing still has over the West.
We don't think he ought to be welcome there. Of course, he went up to the Oval Office and photographs were taken there, and bowing and everything there. But so they said, yes, that was his choice to go through the kitchens because he's a humble man.
Don't believe it.
He wanted to go and meet all the staff, and some might have been Buddhists. Maybe, I don't know. So yes, anyway, that's about all I want to say about George there. So I was interested. He's back in the in the cult. Nuncio in Lithuania. I might drop him a line, see what's happening there, because that is a flashpoint. There's no doubt about it. We know someone in our town, Jehovah's Witness for 50 years, and he has some awful stories to tell. His daughter is actually in Estonia. She's a Jehovah's Witness, and she told him that. He went to stay with her, and he said when she's washing her dishes in the kitchen, she can look out and see the border. And she can see Russian tanks. Imagine looking up there, it's Russian tanks. And they're that near, and she can see the tanks. And I think she said on a clear day, you can see the soldiers getting into the tanks and getting the tanks primed so they can come over that border into Estonia.
It's like Cyprus. You've got the northern part of Cyprus where the Turks invaded in 75.
You've been there, yeah.
And you can still see it. Nothing's changed over the years. And again, where were all these people in the streets back in 75?
That's right.
When Turkey went in and annexed Cyprus.
Henry Kissinger, the great master,
but nothing happened.
He went there, he said, I'm going to sort this out. He flew to Ankara, I don't know who he saw, and he said to them, you cannot stay in northern Cyprus. They're still there today.
50 years later.
50 years later.
And they're in NATO.
And they're in NATO. Yes, that's right. They're in NATO, and a very powerful presence in NATO as well with their jets and so forth. So I think that's all I want to say about George's promotion. I've sort of followed his career through the years. I'm not sure whether he was a member of the St. Pius X Society. If you know anything, perhaps you'll let me know. I think it's about all, really. We talked about Trump coming here. He's still coming. He's going to dress...
next month? Is this month?
It's supposed to be,
July?
It's supposed to be July. He'll have to be welcomed by a top dignitary, unless they've got an Archbishop of Canterbury in the next 3 weeks, which I doubt. But if you're listening, Anne, Bishop Anne, we're going for you. Please let us know what's going on there, because we think you could be the next Archbishop of Canterbury.
Oh, please no.
We talked about the Dalai Lama turns 90, the tiara. George said, I went through the 5 doors. Do you remember we talked about the plenary indulgence now? Last week, the Vatican said, if you go through the 5 doors of the 5 cathedrals and you hear Mass, I can't remember what I said there. I've written it down there. You had to go through the 5 doors. You had to say Mass. And you had to go to confession. No, I can't find it. He apparently did the 5 doors. So if George dies and he goes to purgatory, will he go to purgatory? He's a good person, isn't he?
George. Yeah. Straight to heaven, isn't it?
Probably, yeah. So what's he getting the plenary indulgence for? Because plenary indulgence gets you out of purgatory. Yeah. And the more you do, so, as I say, in my old prayer book that I've got at home, it said, if you do a plenary indulgence, one of my members, all through the day, say, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, save souls. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, save souls. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, save souls. If you say it through a day, you got a 5-year in plenary indulgence.
In fact, this Muslim yesterday, he said to me, he said, when you get to heaven, he's being sarcastic, of course, you people think you'll see Mary judging you with Jesus, God, and the Holy Ghost. Some other people mentioned. So no, we don't believe they'll be there at all. Not to judge us. I mean, they'll be there in glory, I'm sure. I'm sure Mary's a saved woman. But it just shows you
She
how
doesn't know what's going on down here.
she doesn't
Lewis
indeed,
and all Fatima and all this sort of thing.
But it goes back to, Islam and all these false religions. They twist the scriptures so often. I mean, what does Peter say? Unstable people wrest the scriptures to their own destruction, and it's so true, isn't it?
Well, funny enough, I remember one of the nuns I knew. She'd been out in Kenya. I won't give her name, but she'd been out there for several years, and she liked the life there. And she was every so often they moved these people around. She got summoned back to the mother house. They said, "You're going to this place in South London," but she said, "I had great devotion to Blessed Mary." She said many times I'd pray for her, and she's very busy. She has to come out of heaven to go to Fatima. She got to go to Lourdes. She took time out to hear my prayers. They see her flying around the world, club class or something like that, getting air miles, going into all these different places.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I want to say about this now. We talked about the Dalai Lama. Yes, I think it's about all. George.
And also the Dalai Lama is quite close to the Vatican.
He's been there several times.
Several of the last few popes.
He always wears, down in your town, we get the Buddhists come to our town. They wear these orange, these orange robes, and they have a sort of sash round there as well. I don't know what this signifies, this orange at all, I don't know. But when he went to Rome and he met Benedict, I think he met Benedict, he bowed to Benedict, he took his sash off his shoulder and he put it over Benedict's shoulders.
Yeah.
So you had this orange sash over this white cassock. Never seen it before. He said, "No, take it off.
But there's photographs of John Paul II was it a Shiva priestess?
Priestess, that's right, priestess.
Back in the early 80s.
Well, they got together for this day of prayer, didn't they? Do you remember?
Was that Assisi, in Assisi?
Assisi, yeah, and they had Red Indians there as well. Do you remember?
Everybody there.
They're all there, and these
Pink
Red
Panther
Indians
was there.
with all the headdress on, the Apache Indians shaking the marimbas, and they all put in this day of prayer. They came for it. And do you remember when was it Benedict? No, John Paul. He got for peace in Israel. Do you remember? We got to find peace, and he invited
Shimon Peres.
Shimon Peres was there. Arafat there, and they all got together.
It was Abbas.
Abbas, that's right.
Shimon Peres.
And then we're going to meet in the garden. We're going to pray together, and they had silent prayer. And I watched them there, silent prayer.
And they're still praying now.
And they're still praying now. Where's this peace? We're still waiting for this peace. Right? Like the old boy had been married for 60 years. I said to him, "How long have you been married?" He said, "We've been married for 60 years, for better, for worse," he said, "but we're still waiting for the better." So all these prayers that they're still saying, peace hasn't come, has it? And it won't come.
They're so focused on the here and the now, that they've got no real understanding of the eternal state.
So I think that's all I want to talk about there. And if you've got any questions coming through there?
Yeah, there's a few. Let's just go through some of the questions. There's a problem with the scriptures, apparently. David can't put them in the chat. Could be a YouTube glitch. Hope to be fixed by this coming Sunday. You got any prayer requests or thoughts? Put them in the chat, please. And just show some of the books.
Yeah, I'll get the books ready. Anything on Rosemary's Baby? Anything? Kung Fu? No. Nobody watched any of these?
Yeah, Swaggart died last night, Elaine, 90.
Yes, we know.
Just telling her there'll be a big burial coming up.
I think Franklin Graham will be there.
Franklin will be there. Yes. And maybe some priests, we shall see.
Interesting let me just jump in quickly. Trump's prayer breakfasts. He has these prayer breakfasts. He had all the evangelicals there. Paula White's always there. And you did something on Paula White.
Yeah.
And all these they're packed into the Oval Office. They're all putting their hand on him. And I saw a couple of priests there, actually, but I never saw Jimmy Swaggart there. Never saw Jimmy Swaggart.
No, I suppose he's too important.
Well, he was never there putting his hand on the president's head. All the rest of them putting their hand praying over him. I never saw Jimmy Swaggart. And yet, on Jimmy's 90th birthday, he sent a lovely handwritten letter. "You're a great man." He said, "I said, a great man of faith," which he said today. "I watch many of your broadcasts to get some preaching tips, or when I'm giving sort of something."
It reminds me of McPherson, who was very close to Chaplin.
Yes. Amy Semple McPherson,
in the 1930s and 20s. They all copy each other, these people, they certainly do.
So what else there?
God bless you, Sister Wendy in Birkenhead. The Nazarene Church, they also hold to once saved, you can be lost. In fact, most churches do. It's very rare to find a church which holds to once saved, always saved. And just for the record, it's not only Calvinists to hold to that. I'm not a Calvinist. I believe in it as well. And a lot of your old Baptists also believe once saved, always saved.
The Mennonites, now they came out of Germany. Were they George Muller? Tied in with him? You went to Muller's house, didn't you?
Yeah, in Bristol. I don't think.
Am I thinking of somebody else?
I don't think so.
Mennonite. People might want to know a bit more about the Mennonites.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's Germany, isn't it? I think they were missions, weren't they?
I think they feed back to the Amish, don't they, as well? They feed back to that sort of German side of the church.
Calvinists, of course, aren't they? The Amish,
Five-point Calvin, hyper Calvinists as well.
I think the Mennonites perhaps went to Africa. But if you know,
I'm not sure off the top of my head actually.
No. Please let us know.
Elizabeth says the Islamists have the RC, Jesus and Mary, not the true Jesus. Yes, that's true.
Jesus, Mary, Joseph.
Libby, absolutely.
Yeah.
Guinness and rosary beads, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the Irish, they are heavy drinkers, and also blasphemer lots.
Blasphemers as well.
Awful blasphemers, shocking.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
We've got Irish in the family, so don't accuse us of being racist or something.
No, we have.
Patrick's half Irish. What else you got here?
4/4 Irish. Yeah.
I know, I'm a bit Scottish.
Porridge, you see.
Yeah.
we had a great one of our grandmothers lived to be about 90 something, didn't she? All the porridge.
Yeah, all these spirits in the Pentecostal churches. That, of course, is just slaying the spirits, as Winnie quite rightly says.
Spirit, yeah, fall backwards.
Speaking in tongues, or just a touch from the so-called man of God, and they go crazy, like they're having a fit or something.
Just talking about falling backwards. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Judas comes in with the soldiers to arrest him.
Yeah, temple guards.
A temple guard. Now, I think Ruckman thought about 500 of them. These temple guards.
No, maybe I'm not sure if it's 500. It was quite an army.
Peter takes his sword out and slices the ear off.
Malchus's ear.
Malchus's ear. Yeah. Jesus puts it back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And nobody got saved.
No. And then he did something, and they all fell backwards, didn't they?
He said, "Whom do you seek?" And they all fell backwards.
They all fell backwards, slain in the spirit.
That's John 18, of course.
And still they persecute. Still they crucify him. They've seen 2 miracles done in front of their eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Most Hindus and Buddhists are easily converted to Catholicism than to real born again Christians.
Easily converted.
Are more easily converted.
Oh, right.
Because it's the same thing, really. I mean, the Catholic Church is so mystical. I mean, there's so many different wings of the Catholic Church.
Well, our local church, we had a Lady Altar, as it was called, big statue of Mary there with a crown on her head, and every day on her anniversaries, the Assumption, and the local Hindus would come in with flowers and lay them at the altar. And, they'd worship her on that day.
Someone says here, Catherine Middleton wore a copy of Rosemary's Baby's dress when pregnant. Yes, you're right.
Yes,
she certainly did.
Yes.
Back in the day, of course.
Yes.
That may have been a duplicate of Diana's first birth with William, of course, back in the 80s.
Good point. Thank you.
But these people don't just dress by chance.
Oh,
they're
it's all choreographed.
It's all choreographed.
They say and do, yeah.
Lane says the generational curse. A lady who believes that gasped when I told her my mother was Scottish, like I'd curses. Yeah, that's ridiculous, of course. I mean, the man who gave us the Bible is from Scotland. James I, of course, of England.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Freemasonry is concerned, especially Hollywood. Lots of Catholics. Definitely back to the Hayes Commission.
Yeah, Hayes Commission. Yeah, I think it's William Hayes.
Yeah, many Catholics have a religious spirit, not a Christian thing. True. Not sure we can't post the scriptures, David. Just keep trying, brother. Otherwise, see if YouTube reset it for Sunday service. Billy Graham, one of his ministers of the Catholic Church and Jesuits. Billy Graham once said, he said, I preach the same gospel as the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And I've got a book about Billy Graham, if you want to get it. I go through his autobiography and I show some of the problems with his teachings and his ecumenism. What else we got? Good morning to your Chastity in the US, sister in the US. Any prayer requests, please put them in the chat. Somebody's from Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Love this ministry. Thank you, Daniel. Keep us in prayer, brother. Please pray for our neighbour's salvation. This is Brother David.
We had relatives. I had an uncle who lived in, is it Detroit you mentioned?
Just says Michigan.
Oh, Michigan. We lived
Michigan.
in Detroit in an area called Dearborn. I always remember that.
That's top Islamic.
It is now, but back in the 60s, and he was in Dearborn, which I think is outside Michigan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, praying for your neighbours, David. I've got the same problem with my neighbours, by the way.
Yes.
A team of demons, I'll tell you. been a real thorn in my flesh for a long time. So I know I know what you're going through, brother. What else we got here? Megiddo, yeah, not a bad movie.
Megiddo, oh yes, yes.
I hear the scriptures, John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Amen. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Exactly, good scripture, brother. Please pray for my mum, Sonia, her eyes to be opened. Yeah, we'll pray for Sonia, definitely. John 10:28, and give unto me eternal life, and they shall never perish. So clear, isn't it? Neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. The Father and I are one. And got some scripture from Romans 10:13. Whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Amen.
Shut it.
Yeah.
Raining.
Typical British weather. Early July too.
Just a quickie, getting back, I suddenly saw something. When those Japanese pilots flew to Pearl Harbor to sink the American Sixth Fleet, they flew actually into the aircraft. They committed what's called harikari.
You mean on Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor, I'm sorry, yeah, Pearl Harbor, the harikari, and some of the newsreels of them flying off.
That's
there.
it's like a jihad, isn't it? Really?
It's jihad, yeah. They actually flew into the aircraft.
It's a jihad,
and it's called harikari. You saw them putting these handkerchiefs around their throats, and I seem to remember they were that orange color as well as they flew off there to sink the Sixth Fleet, which of course they did.
Thank you for buying the books, Barb. We've got the books to show you shortly. For those who haven't bought the books, we do need your support, by the way. So if you can stand with us financially, please do so.
See the triple tiara? See
No,
it?
the guy to the left,
Past the 10th, yeah.
Pius X. That hat that he's wearing there, that is the triple tiara. We discussed it quite a few times.
It looks heavy, doesn't it?
Looks very expensive as well.
Yeah.
When they wore that triple tiara, they were Lord of heaven and the earth and hell, but it went out in 65, so the church could become more respectable. Go to the right of the screen. I know the camera's back to front here, unfortunately. That is Pius XII, and he was called Hitler's Pope. And this book's called The Incredible Story of How the Papacy Became Infallible under Pius X and Pius the 12th. And if you can't click on the links, if they're not working, just go into Amazon or Apple and type in our surname, BATTELL, and all of our books will come up. Here's another one to go along with it. This is about Fatima, and this is still a big issue for the Catholic Church to this day. A lot of people are sucked into this Marian cult, and I'm seeing a lot of people getting into Greek Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism, and sooner or later they'll make her their Lord and Saviour, if the truth were known. This book's called The Truth About Our Lady of Fatima, the Cult of the Virgin Mary. And again, because the camera's back to front here, I'm just going to read the titles of the book to you, of the books to you. It's a short book. In fact, they're both short books, but
good read.
Can be read in less than probably 90 minutes a pair.
Give you good background.
A lot of background to the Catholic Church, what you need to know, so on and so forth. Calvinism, and this is a must-have book if you are new to the faith or dealing with apologetics, or you're worrying about limited atonements, or if God really loves you. If you're one of the elect, this is the book to get. And the title is the tulip, is Calvinism and the tulip biblical? And I explain why it's not, or why they're not. And I go through the 5 points of Calvinism on page 57. And I say here, or I've got a quote here, in fact, from a Calvinist, trying to explain or defend total depravity. And yes, man is born sinful and flawed, but for them, they argue that from a standpoint that unless God regenerates you or predestinates you before time began, you can't be saved, and he gives you faith in order to be saved. And I debunk that quite easily in my book, and so you can get that one. This is a good book to get. This is on Freemasonry, the Illuminati, and the Catholic Church. And there's Mary at the top, the one eye in the middle, of course, skull and bones at the bottom. And it's a short book, but a lot of good stuff here, about 90 pages. And I go through what these groups all have in common. and how they all linked up together. You got characters like this: somebody's son dressing up like a clown, trouser leg rolled up, open neck shirt, and the vows or the oaths these guys take is the same as what the Jesuits take. Basically, if you squeal on the Masons, you lose your life, and the same be true if you are Jesuits. If you reveal Jesuit truths, and I explain the dangers of Freemasonry, the 33 degrees that make up such a system, and how the Catholic Church, under a guy called Heenan, Cardinal Heenan in London, actually allowed a practicing Catholic, to become a Freemason. A lot of pictures in here. In fact, here's the handshake. You can see it there. This is charts of Masonic handshakes, and all our politicians have weird handshakes. You probably noticed over the years.
You have to learn all this, do you?
Yeah, I mean, most people
initiation, you got to know all this.
just give you a normal handshake, but these people don't. Not sure how clear that is, but I give the picture and the explanations to what these symbols all refer to. I'll give you one final picture. Skull and Bones, George W. Bush, of course, part of that secret society, and mostly from Yale and Harvard. I think it's Yale, in fact, historically speaking, and it's worth just being aware of what's going on with these types of secret societies. And thankfully, we can get these books out through Amazon and other platforms. King James, there's the man. I should say these are first edition books. If you order the books today, you get new covers, but the content is the same inside. And this book is called King James I of England, the King the Vatican Could Not Kill. And I spent about 18 months reading about King James. And I said the following on page 15. To be fair, he was a moderate Calvinist, even writing against Calvinism tulip later in life, which of course he did. And I quote Antonia Fraser, who says of him how energetic he was, with enormous amount of interest in all forms of theological discussions and disputes. And I put in brackets, like a young Jesus, Luke 2:42. Very bright man, James. And Luther, King James, and Oliver Cromwell have been smeared by the Catholics and others for all their days, really, due to their impact on society. I deal with the homosexual allegations about King James, which I debunk. Whoops. And it's a good book to get, like I say, and if you are a King James man, you should know about this era. This is our Jesuit book. This is mostly Patrick's material, a lot of good stuff in here. That is Ignatius Loyola, a Spanish mercenary who had a very bad bash to the head one day, like Ellen White, SDA. He woke up a real zealot, like your Islamists who go around killing people. And the plan for the Jesuits was, and still is, to reverse the Protestant Reformation. And they haven't really given up since their conception in the 16th century. And we've got some rare Jesuit coins from an old friend of ours.
Yeah.
Who couldn't get saved, unfortunately, but very friendly chap.
Did try, though.
And these are Jesuit coins from Japan, about 300 years old, which I guess we got somewhere. You still got them somewhere?
I've still got them, yeah.
Very rare coins.
We'll come to you one day.
Yeah, and
he used to have our tracks on his counter.
He did indeed. Yeah. And a lot of good stuff in here about the Jesuit movements. And again, these books are available on Amazon or Apple ebooks, paperback or audio recordings. And I appreciate those who bought these books or are trying to order them at the moment. If you buy these books on Amazon, please do leave a short review. It really does help with the algorithm, and we need your support monthly. If you can do so, helps us enormously to keep moving on. We do a lot of street work. In fact, we'll do some street work shortly after this, and it all takes time and money, as you can appreciate. So this is our Jesuit book. This is called The Shocking History of the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus. And The cover is the same, so there's no new cover for this, and it runs about 144 pages. And at the back, I put a little footnote in about how in the spring of 2023, Vladimir Zelensky held high-level talks at the Vatican with the Pope, that of course will be Francis, and his most senior political priest, Paul Gallagher, British priest in fact. During this secret meeting, which lasted over 90 minutes, the head of MI6, we'll come to that in a minute, MI6, Richard Moore, was also present. That's very unusual. The Archbishop in question, Paul Gallagher, is not a Jesuit priest, but a member of the but a member of the Order of Prince Henry, a secret European Catholic Masonic order. And I go on about Zelensky breaking Catholic protocol when he gave the Pope a black silhouettes of the baby Jesus, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So look at stuff in there about the Jesuits, who are so powerful. They really are. And I think, if the truth were known, they own a lot of Christian bookstores.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I've had trouble getting my books into those places. And finally, MI6, my Christian novel about an MI6 spy who works for SIS, Secret Intelligence Service. And this is a good, fun book to read. A lot of good stuff in here about a guy called David James, DJ, as he's known. And just skimming through it now, a lot of stuff in about nearly 400 pages, in fact. And it's about a guy who gets saved. I won't say too much. A lot of short stories that become all interlinked. 42 chapters.
Wow.
Yeah, 42 chapters, 364 pages. And a lot of fun writing this over 18 months. And I'm about 70% into volume 2, which hopefully after Midnight Nights is released, I will get online, hopefully for later this year. We'll see. It's a Christian story. It's a spy story. It's a love story. It's got a lot of stuff about Israel. He becomes friendly with a rabbi. I won't say too much. Has an interesting result. And a Mossad agent also goes missing in London. And DJ, as he's known, is called upon to find it. It's called Agent of Grace. Agent of Grace. This is volume 1, like I've just said. And that's a updated cover. So if you were to buy this today, that's the cover you're going to get. And like I say, I'm nearly coming to the end of my first draft anyway, going through volume 2. Which book have you written? My Billy Graham book was called The Vatican's Right-Hand Man. The Vatican's Right-Hand Man. Again, just go onto Amazon or Apple, type in my surname, and the books will all come out, or come up. Or save time, just type my surname in, and the Vatican's Right-Hand Man, and it will come up. Please pray for me. I had gallstones and kidney stones last week.
Nasty.
I believe God has healed me, but need more. We're praying for your sister. God bless you. Yeah, Eric Berg, very good American doctor. He knows his stuff, that guy. Check him out online. Someone says we share the common things. I have demonic neighbors too. Yeah. Buddhists, Taoists, every midnight in certain week, every midnight in certain weeks, one of them makes a lot of noise and laughing like a ghost non-stop for an hour. Yeah.
Chanting.
Yeah.
It's big and little bells. They have bells on their fingers, don't they? Little symbols on their fingers.
It's uncomfortable. Acts 4:12, neither is there salvation in any other, amen, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Great verse, Brother David. KJV Man NZ, is that New Zealand? I think.
Yeah.
I'll buy those books. I respect you guys. Thank you. Keep us in prayer. We need your prayers and your support. And you've got the Jesuit books, Sister Wonderful. Let me know what you think. And the Abraham Lincoln also goes nice with the Jesuit book. So get them together. And you get a lot of stuff you won't get in school, I'll tell you that. And yeah, as David said, he couldn't get his books either into into Christian shops. No. They don't want them.
It's all sewn up.
It's like a closed shop.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's closed shop.
We move on. I mean, if God wants his books to be found, they will be.
Yeah.
All we can do is just mention them regularly. And please give this live stream a like if you'd be so kind. We've got 45 people, 33 likes. It helps so much with the algorithm, so just give it a like. And we know that you appreciate these live streams. It tells YouTube as well to share them with a much wide audience. Yeah, we've already discussed Swaggart dying. He died last night, age of 90. He was an Armenian. He thought you could lose your salvation. And of course, he got caught up with that prostitute, and overnight had a change of heart, which is pretty typical of Armenians in that sense. Of course, you can't lose your salvation. If you could, none of us would go to heaven. Let's be quite honest about that. Let's not kid ourselves. So I think that's probably all from our end.
Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say.
New Zealand, long way away. Okay, so God bless you all. We're praying for your sister Chastity with your gallbladder issue, kidney stones. I know how painful it is. My mother had it years ago.
Yeah.
And we'll be back on Sunday to go through the book of Acts of Course. Bless you all in Jesus' name. Amen, amen.
Take care.